Welcome back to the Taiwan Outlook. I'm your host, Wu Ruiguo. In this segment, we will continue our conversation with Professor明居正of the Political Science Department of the National Taiwan University. Professor Min, we know that the kinds of rapid economic growth that we have seen on the mainland China certainly will bring a lot of ripple effect onto other parts of the society. Specifically, as you mentioned earlier, about the worsening distribution of wealth and also unemployment and also social welfare. What are the major challenges in the social area that you see that Beijing faces as China moves into a different phase of its overall development?
Well, I remember back in about 5 or 6 years ago, when I was still the chairman of the department, I received many guests from mainland China, actually from all over the world. But the Chinese scholars, when they visit Taiwan, they always have an interest to visit our department because we study our society and their society, and we try to do the comparison. So when they came to us, they always ask the question, how do you see China now? And how do you see the social effect? And what kind of social changes do you think that we're going to confront? I said, based on our observation of other society and also of the Taiwanese society, as we have experienced ourselves, we have seen several things which are similar because we're from a similar background. The same cultural background and some historical background, things like that. In addition to the unemployment rate we just mentioned, there are several major things which I think deserves special attention. First thing is the unequal distribution of wealth, as you just mentioned, and that's been worsening. And the second thing is the corruption thing.
Corruption at different levels of government.
Different levels of the government and different levels of the officials, government officials. And the third thing is the natural consequences of the combination of the first two, namely social unrest. The confrontation between the people, the masses, and also with the government. So that's the third thing. The fourth thing is the escape of the cadres from the state. Namely, they desert the country. Sometimes I call them the desertees. The state desertees. These are the government officials. They work for either for the central government or for the local governments, and they happen to be in a strategic position to be able to corrupt to the point that he could not bear it himself. He would have to carry the money, take the money, and flee the country. So escape from the country. The last thing is to desert the party. To denounce the party and to get rid of the party, the Communist Party, and the affiliated groups. So these are the 5 major factors, I think, that may affect the social stability to the great extent, in China. And let me say this, out of these 5 factors, the 4 of them, the previous 4 of them, are basically recognized by the Chinese government.
They acknowledge it.
They acknowledge them. Namely, I got the statistics basically from the government documents, from the government release. So that's where my sources are from.
And let me ask you the last one then. Regarding, they want to, leave the party, denounce the party, withdraw themselves from any party-affiliated, organizations. How would you, explain that? I mean, because when you look at the society in China, it's still one party-dominated, authoritarian state. And party, of course, being a member of the Communist Party, probably has a lot of fringe benefits. Privileges. Why would people, after China has, gone through this rapid economic growth, and the party provides all these attractive benefits, incentives, will want to leave the party? Is it because that the communist ideology is being abandoned by a lot of people in China? Or is it because that they are now pursuing a more capitalist, road of development, and people now switching their ideological beliefs from communism onto capitalism?
That could be part of it too. Before answering your question directly, let me use an example. Let me go back to what happened in Eastern European countries before their collapse. We know that from 1989 until 1990 and 1991, there are 8 communist regimes that collapsed in Eastern European countries, right?
Yes.
And then in 1991, we witnessed Soviet Union. We witnessed its collapse. So altogether, there are 9 communist systems that collapsed, that failed totally.
Yeah.
Out of those countries, the communist members, they all enjoy privileges in their respective societies, right?
Exactly.
Exactly.
Okay.
So why would those people want to desert their party in the first place? I mean, we notice similar things happening in the Eastern European countries. For instance, in East Germany, prior to the collapse of the regime, of the communist regime, a total of 8.3% of the Communist Party who deserted the party. The communist member who deserted the party.
Okay.
And that's a low figure.
Yeah, okay.
For countries like Poland, Hungary, and Czechoslovakia, we witness a desertation rate like 12% to 18%.
Okay.
So averagely speaking, we're looking at a 15% of desertion rate.
Okay.
And for Soviet Union, you remember the coup d'etat and the counter-coup d'etat in 1991, where Gorbachev was detained and
then later
reclaimed
power.
Right.
Yes.
So it's a matter of 1 month.
Yeah.
So after that, after he returned to Moscow, he made a report to the party, to the top officials of the party. He said, we got a desertion rate of about 22%, which was August 1991.
That's almost a quarter.
Almost a quarter. So by the end of the year, when the Soviet Union collapsed in 1991, when it collapsed, we estimated it's about 30%. 1/3 of the party members who left the party and who deserted the party. So the funny thing is we have witnessed similar things happening in China now. So the total figure is somewhere around 55 million people. But that's a total figure of people who left the party, left the communist youth, the youth group,
League,
and the league. So it's a combination of 3. But in terms of the party members, we're looking at about 60%.
Really?
60% of that. Of that figure. So we're looking at about 30 to 33 million people. We're deserting the party. So I talked to some of the people who left the party. And I asked them, why are you doing this? He said, well, actually, I didn't know what I believed in. When I swore at the party flag and said I'm going to devote myself to this solemn goal, about 20, 30 years ago when I was young, I was serious. And I really knew and I really thought that I'm going to devote myself to this cause. But after 20 or 30 years, my dream has vanished completely.
Disillusioned.
Yes, it's like an illusion. It's like a bubble. Now it's burst. So it left me nothing. And some people told me it's a matter of the call from the conscience. It's that I should not work for this party anymore because I don't like it. Because it's not walking toward the right direction. It's walking toward a direction I don't like, corruption and things like that. So it's that it's a call from the conscience, and I decide to change, to pick my future. To change his future. So that was a shock to me. After being interviewing for so many people, and that came as a shock.
I think it's probably a shock to a lot of people, myself included, who are watching our program as well. Because, Professor Ming, what you mentioned about the deserting rate, certainly goes to the bigger issue of the legitimacy of the regime.
Exactly.
About the kinds of control that Beijing has over the different parts of the country, over the different layers of government. And that will go to the direct roots of legitimacy. How do you think, if the situation continues down its current path, the worsening income distribution, the corruption level, and then also the state deserters also going up, how would you think that this path in the future, in the coming months or years, would really erode Chinese legitimacy, or is that going to bring about some type of changes within under the Chinese communist control?
Yeah, talking about the legitimacy, that's a very serious question for the regime like that, because we know that as a world trend, that democracy has become the dominant trend in history. So they're facing a paramounting pressure upon their regime.
Yeah, to change.
To change. So they are thinking about democracy or democratization too. But the question is, it's difficult to make the first step. Look at what happened in Eastern European countries, in the Soviet Union. Gorbachev was thinking about the same thing, but it was impossible for him. So he never made that step. So we noticed that the leaders on the mainland China, they think about questions like that, but still it's very difficult. It's difficult for them to make up their mind because they see one way or another.
And also Chinese experience is very different from others.
Unique too. Unique. So, but look at Taiwan. I'm back to Taiwan in 1986 and 1987. Time of transition. Just the time then when the DPP proclaimed its establishment in 1986. Formation. And in 1987 we lifted the martial law and we started our process of democratization officially back then. We have gone through many social upheavals, but we made it through. But the difference is Taiwan was an authoritarian regime. And mainland China is a totalitarian regime. And there's a major difference. So I think legitimacy question is a major question for them, and they know it. So they're thinking very hard how to deal with it, and how to not necessarily get around it, but how to go through it.
How
to manage the problem. I think that's a major problem for them.
Professor Ming has identified the major factors and the kinds of pressure that Beijing authority is confronted with after China's rapid economic growth. And when we come back to the Taiwan Outlook, we will continue this discussion with Professor明居正of the National Taiwan University about the possibility or the likelihood of democracy in China. We'll be back in a few minutes.